But you know, it's scary sometimes, and we're like, we don't know what's on the other side of that. But like, if there's fear and if there's excitement, I think they're two sides of the same coin. So I'm like, do it, and then just keep following that inspired action, and that, you know, keep following your gut, keep listening to the messages that are coming through. And so it's a little terrifying, but it's also exhilarating.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bridge Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Nixon.
And I'm Jonathan Matthew.
And we have a very special guest today, Dr. Claretha Yeager. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Nice to see you guys. Happy to be here.
This is awesome. Okay, first question I always like to ask is just give our audience some background information, who you are, where you're from, and what do you do?
Well, I'm Claretha Yeager. I am a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I am a Reiki master teacher and a spiritual coach. So I specialize in the health and vitality of the mind, body, and the heart. I do that through acupuncture and all of the traditional Chinese medicine fun things that I do in my office. And then I also do that with coaching clients and help them reclaim their sovereignty through energetic and spiritual practices, so they can just be their true self and just have much more ease and joy in their life.
So all that shows our audience right away why we're friends and why you're on the podcast, because he's a yoga teacher. We're both personal trainers and know a lot about nutrition. So when we're working physically with people, we like to be in touch with people. We have a group chat called the Holistic Avengers, and you're definitely in that Avenger group for sure. As far as when New Earth takes place and all the schooling systems change, you're going to be primary healer. And he was just saying, we're into like etymology of words to find like true definitions versus like mainstream definitions. And what'd you look up for doctor?
Yeah, doctor, because it's been so it's so synonymous with like hospital, medical, lab coat doctor, right? But it really just means, it's from like docere, it's the Latin word, it means just teacher. That's all it means, to teach. So if you're
just teach people how to heal themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing, right? Where are you located? I'm feeling like Chicago. You said Central Time Zone. Yeah? Right.
Yes, I'm in Chicago.
I don't know if I felt that or if I knew that from
go with
before.
it.
Yeah.
Just trust your gut.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I never know how people get connected, but like I was like, oh, she's part of our tribe. Like I could feel that energy. And I just love your videos and your page so much. So we had to do this. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how I found your Instagram page, but I was like, this guy is on fire. Like all of the things, and it's just like the perfect mix for me, because, I've got sort of, I don't know if you call it a quirky sense of humor or a weird sense of humor, but like, that you're here to spread your light, and however that sort of like percolates through your personality and your energy. And I was just like, yes, like all the things, like the music things, the movie, nuances and everything. So I was like, soul family, here they are.
Oh, no better feeling than that. You know what? Maybe it was through my man, Dr. Campbell, because he's out in Chicago too.
Yes, he's in Evanston, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is just like basically Chicago. That might have been it.
When did you discover that you were a sorceress and you had magical powers that you could heal people through energy?
Well, I think I knew it when I was a little girl, and then I shut it down because, that's not cool when you're growing up, but I always kind of knew. Yeah.
But we know it's the coolest thing ever now.
Yeah. And I always felt kind of different in general. And so I always knew that that energy sort of existed inside of me, because I grew up in a family of healthcare practitioners. Like my dad is a Western doctor. He's retired now. And my mom is an occupational therapist. And my dad was a doctor in the Navy for over 30 years. So he was very much about like rank and authority and hierarchy and just very, I love him, but like just very, and my mom was like this hippy dippy, like, let's like make a tea out of this root, and let's talk to this, like the sky and the clouds. And so I grew up in this weird, and like my dad is black. He's from Panama, and my mom is like a Western European mix. So I was already, nowadays it's cool to be the mixed kid. When I was growing up, like, 30, 40 years ago, not so cool. Or not as mainstream as it is now. Not that it wasn't cool, but like I was always different, and I always knew I was different in the way that I looked, in the way that I felt about things growing up. I always held different perspectives from most of my friends, and I was just like, well, I just get to do my own thing this life. And it took me until like college to figure out that was just going to be the theme for the rest of my life, because I always sort of danced to the beat of my own drum, and always just sort of this mixing of duality in me. And so I was like, there's this magical thing that I get to experience this life that I think I chose before I came in, but I get to figure out how to meld that duality in a magical way inside of myself, so other people can like feel the benefit and see the benefit of that too, and that they don't have to fit in, that they don't have to like do the mainstream thing. So it's just kind of been a through line, like a thread throughout my entire life, that,
So beautiful.
I get to be this, I don't use the word sorceress, but I love that when you said that.
Yes.
You're an Avenger now.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I will take it.
To me, when you're describing your parents, that just sounds like perfect balance. Two hippies would be boring. 2 Navy officers would be too uptight. That's perfect balance to me. And mainstream fitting in is nonsense. That's all old paradigm stuff.
Yeah.
We're done with that. And I really love and appreciate how you're just being your authentic self, and that shows other people the safety and security that they can be their selves too, because that's how we win.
Yeah, it is. And we get to take in the things that we want that resonate with us, and leave the things that don't. Because I went to my undergrad, I went to art school, and my dad was like, what are you doing? And then I was like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fine. It wasn't fine, but it was fun for sure. And then I, after I played around in my 20s and just, the 20s are just for, the things, experiencing life. I wanted to go into like holistic health. And so then I got a graduate degree in science. So I've got this art and the science. And I was like, it's the same thing. It's just a different language.
That's what our whole podcast is about. It's the same thing in a different language.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Oh, man. So that's your perfect way of, I don't want to say appeasing, making your parents happy and rebelling at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be a doctor, but I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah. I could have gone to med school, but I was like, that's boring.
And then knowing what you know now, that's obviously the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And I say sorceress because I used to say witch, but then I got to take the time to describe, I'm not using that as a pejorative term, and I mean that as a good witch before the mainstream said that we got to burn witches. Every time the mainstream's doing something, I'm like, they're killing the good guys. So then I got to like explain and everything. So he the other day said sorceress, and I was like, I'm stealing that, because that's exactly what you are.
Yeah, I love it. It is just so much more.
It's badass.
It is. It's very powerful and like.
It's empowering.
Yes. Yeah.
Was there like a specific, and you said around college is when you kind of felt that out, but was there like a specific moment or like a specific shift or event that prompted you to really change your perspective or change your path?
To go into Chinese medicine?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I was in my like mid to late 20s, and I had moved I grew up in the West Coast, and so I had moved to Chicago, and I was really unhappy. I was working like 3 jobs. One of them was at like a bar, and so like I was drunk a lot in my during that time, and I was tired of it. I was like, okay, I like did this. It was a really hard time in my life because just like moving in, like growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I just felt so good all the time. And I didn't realize that nature had a big part of that. moved to the middle of a city where like there are good things here, but there's a lot of intense energy in Chicago. And I started having these like tachycardia things like going on with my heart that didn't exist before I moved to Chicago. And I was just like, I feel bad. I hate it here. Like I wasn't sleeping. It was just like all of this stuff. And so it was just kind of a slow wake up call that I just really needed to heal myself. And I went to doctors and they were like, oh, this heart thing, it's anxiety. And I was like, it's not anxiety. Like that's not what's happening here. This is an energy thing. And so the need to like heal myself is what prompted me to explore these other medicines that were outside of mainstream. And I looked into things like holistic nursing and massage, and they were all good, but I met somebody who was going to school for Chinese medicine at that time. And I was like, I think I'm gonna buy her lunch. I just wanna hear a little bit about it. I bought her lunch. By the end of lunch, I was like, I'm gonna go check this out. I went to the school, met with the dean. He was like, sit in a couple classes, see if it resonates. I did. And I signed up for class the next semester without ever having an acupuncture treatment in my life. And I was like, okay. And then it was just like, 4 years of learning intensely, which was also depleting, but good in a good way. And I just felt like there's so much more to the body than we know.
Oh, yeah.
And then we learn and then we talk about. And there's just this, there is the physical body, but there's the subtle body, there's the energetic body, there's the emotional body, and there's all these other things that we can all use together to make sure that our physical body is good, but the light inside of the physical body is good too.
That's beautiful. I hope the people heard all that. As far as what I got from that was you were curious and you were asking questions, and then you were like, hey, it doesn't hurt to pick someone's brain and take them to lunch and ask them some questions. And then you followed your heart and your intuition instead of going with the path where, like you said, your dad just wanted you to be whatever, anesthesiologist or something, whatever's going to pay the bills so you're safe and protected. Because that's all, your dad's just doing his best. That's what parents want, is just safety. And they're like, okay, money is going to get you resources and safety and this and that. But you were smart enough to follow your heart, and that's awesome. So I hope everybody takes away as much from that as I did. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I've always been, I'm lucky in the fact that I've always listened to my heart, even though it's always been a struggle sometimes because my brain talks me out of the things. But with every big decision I've made, it's always been a heart-centered decision. And so I feel very fortunate in having the courage to do it, because sometimes, honestly, it's scary as fuck. I'm sorry. I don't know if we can.
No, don't be sorry. We're family.
Okay.
It's you've broken the record actually, because you said fuck before me. I'm usually on 17.
Yeah, he's usually like.
So you get an award for that.
Okay, I'll take it.
Please, we're family.
Yeah, but it's scary sometimes, and we're like, we don't know what's on the other side of that. But like, if there's fear and if there's excitement, I think they're two sides of the same coin. So I'm like, do it, and then just keep following that inspired action, and that, keep following your gut, keep listening to the messages that are coming through. And so it's a little terrifying, but it's also exhilarating.
That's so beautiful. And what you said goes along with the video that you just posted about physical pain getting trapped in the energetic body as far as emotional stuff. Mm-hmm. We were going to do an episode on, I had like in my notes, I don't know if this is an original thought or a download or something I read over the years, like different types of injuries. There's obviously a traumatic injury, helmet to the knee, car accident, something like that. There's an overuse injury where you're doing the same thing over and over again, but it's a bad mechanical pattern and you don't even know it until you get an injury.
Yep.
Then there's a genetic injury that you're born with, which is rare but unfortunate. And then there's emotional injury, where you're holding on to old stuff and your body's completely fine. We've seen people limping when there's nothing physically wrong with them. Yeah. We've seen people skittish with their back because 20 years ago they had a back injury or whatever. Or even more, just actual trauma getting stored as physical pain. You want to speak about that a little bit? Because you obviously know way more than me, but that was cool.
Sure. Yeah. It's, the traumatic, like there's all the things, right? And like, we're always we're always creating our own reality camp.
Of course.
And whether it's good or bad, it's like we get to take self-responsibility for what's happening. And yeah, the traumatic things, of course, like I'm glad emergency like medicine is there because it definitely has a place. And for like repetitive things, it's like you really need to like take care of your physical vessel. But yeah, the emotional and the energetic stuff is sneaky, and we have to pay attention to it because our body, in the video I made today, our bodies are always communicating with us, and it starts really subtly and it just continues to get louder and louder and louder. And it's better for us to listen to when the subtle messages are coming through, because as things get louder,
The
energy
pile under the rug gets real big real quick.
Yeah.
What was that?
The pile under the rug gets real big real quick.
Yes. And it's like a snowball, and that the energy, as the signals, as the indicators from your body get louder, the energy gets denser, which means it's like coagulating into something physical. It was just an energetic thing, and it's coagulating into something physical. And that's when we get into trouble. And I've seen this with, I've had acupuncture patients, I've had clients that I work on energetically through the Reiki energetic stuff that I do. And I've seen things like breast cancer that are very, it's interesting, like side note, like the breast cancer that I've seen in the people that I've worked with has stemmed from like anger.
Sure.
And it's anger and like deep, like self-resentment stuff that has just festered there for a really long time until it gets to this point where now it's a physical thing. Now it has to be addressed in a completely different way.
Sure.
And yeah, it's just, it's heartbreaking to me to see that in people, and then to see then all the other things that I have to deal with as far as resolving that. So it's like, don't even go there.
Right.
Let's quiet the external and listen to the internal more often, so we know when things start to get wonky and go sideways. And so it's like, let's just resolve this, like nip it in the bud, basically.
I love that. So what's some take-home tips for the audience? Because obviously you can do, what would you say, weekly or twice a week acupuncture and Reiki, but what can they do like every day?
Every day, meditate.
Okay.
And if people, like, I know there's like a stigma to the word I don't know what the root, do you know the root of meditation?
It's basically just to become aware.
Okay, yes.
To become familiar with is like the Latin translation.
Yes. I think, and maybe it's not just meditation, maybe it's just sitting in silence and breathing and just turning that lens inward, just to do like a scan on your body to see to get to know what the normal you feels like. And then anytime you deviate from that, you're like, oh, what do I need to pay attention to now? Or like, why is this hurting? Let me just kind of like breathe into that and see what I start to feel. So just every day, I think it's important, just for a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be like 2 hours or anything. Just to like feel into your body.
I love that, because if you don't have a baseline, then you don't know what's going on. Because we've all seen the other way around, where people have horrible injuries and they just ignore it because that's their new baseline that they're using.
Yeah, just reconditioning. I use that word baseline, because like when I teach yoga, I always prompt people to observe, like right at the beginning of class, it's like let's do a little body scan. Because most of the time we're just going. We just ignore everything else that's going on. We don't listen. So like take this time before we jump into any crazy poses to just feel what's going on. Like, what's your baseline coming in for this class?
Yes.
Come back to that throughout the class and notice what's shifting, what's changing as we go. That was really well put with that.
And like breath work, I think is super powerful too. Like I was talking about that today, and I'm not a yoga instructor, but there's some breath work practices that I just love to do when I'm feeling a little crispy on the edges. So like breath of fire is like my go-to all the time. I mean, I do it when I'm driving, when like in traffic and things are just, I'm like, not trying to like lose my shit. Like fist of anger is another. Those are like my two favorite ones.
What's fist of anger? Can you describe that quickly? I haven't done that.
It's a Kundalini breath too. And so you take your thumbs and you put them on your like pinky pads there. You wrap your hands over and you put your fist kind of like at your navel. And in breath of fire, you're breathing through your nose. Fist of anger, you're breathing through your mouth. and you're kind of like moving away, like you're cutting sort of like the cords from like in your aura. You're sort of like clearing your aura while you breathe through your mouth. So it kind of like,
love it.
And like you can get a sweat on if you do that. And like, you know, if you're thinking about something that's making you angry, or like, you know, trying to forgive somebody for something, or forgive yourself, and you're just doing that motion like really strongly, like it's very clearing.
Yeah, you're moving that energy out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't build up in you. That's beautiful. I know you got questions. I know you got chomping at the bit.
Well, no, I'm always really curious too when people like you know, name their business the Jade Paths. I know I've seen some of your crystal stuff on your page, and jade's really significant to me, the stone itself. So what prompted the name for that?
I had gone to China at the end of my grad program to see how I was there for a month. And it was really interesting to see, just like be immersed in the culture that I was like learning the medicine of, and being in the hospitals to see how they integrate Eastern and Western medicine. It was really cool to see like people getting like kidney dialysis, you know, in the morning, and then going to get their like IV herbal infusions later in the day. I was like, why aren't we doing this? This is amazing.
I have no ideas why, but
right? Yeah.
Can't put a patent on herbs, but
right. So, I mean, a lot of jade in China, and like green, like the green jade just called to me because green is the color of like the heart chakra, and green is the, like, it's in China, it's like the color of like health and vitality, also abundance. And I was like, I want all of that.
Oh. Yes.
All of that. And then path, because I mean, even when I formed my practice like 8 years ago now, I wanted it to be like nobody's ever static in their health, in their life, in, you know, their relationship with themselves. It's always a journey. So I wanted to have it be a path, because like I want to meet people wherever they are and to support them into like the next version of themselves, or the next, you know, wherever they are in their journey. So it just came out to be Jade Path. And
wow,
that's amazing.
That's so cool. That's perfect. Oh man. Do you use crystals in your practice, or more just personally?
I use them with my Reiki sessions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you combine, we were just talking about this, do you combine the Reiki and the acupuncture? Like same time, before, during, after? Sometimes.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense, because I've had both, but never together.
Yeah, sometimes I do. It's like an hour-and-a-half session. So I'll put all the needles in first. We'll do like a little breath exercise to just kind of like sync the body. Mm-hmm. And then, and then I'll put some crystals on them and around them, and then I'll do like the Reiki session.
That's the real deal. I love it. Yeah. What, we were snooping on your website. What supplements do you take every single day, and which ones do you sell? I know you got a lot on there, but what is your like what is your daily stack, let's say?
I love magnesium.
Oh yeah.
It's like a wonder drug. I'm like, it's used in like over 300 processes in the body, like, you know, cellular processes. So it's great. And there's different kinds of magnesium. So depending on like what people need, like magnesium citrate's gonna make you poop. Like magnesium glycinate is like, you know, and magnesium malate is like better for like cellular processes and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of magnesium glycinate. I'm a big fan of vitamin D and B12 and a probiotic. That's kind of like my core group of things.
Well, nobody learned anything, because we talk about that every day.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, and then there's other ones that, like, if somebody has like a lot of anxiety, but doesn't want to take a lot of like pharmaceutical medication, or the magnesium isn't quite doing it, L-theanine is a good one that I prescribe a lot, because you can take it as needed. It doesn't have to be like a daily thing, and it just helps like take the edge off of that like anxiety feeling. That's one of my favorites. Glutathione is a good like anti-inflammatory. I love that one too. So yeah, it just kind of depends on where people are.
Sure. And that's great, because you got the standard that everybody should take, because we just don't get it in our diet and lifestyle anymore. And then the rest is as needed and per individual basis.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What Are you super busy now? Like, are more and more people, we like to say, not alternative practices or alternative medicine. This to me is primary care. Like yourself, taking care of yourself every day is primary care. And then going to a healer like yourself. And then, like you said, the last case is Western medicine if you absolutely need it. It's good that it's there if you need it.
Yeah.
But do you feel more and more people are becoming open-minded, coming from the mainstream to practices like yours?
I think they're becoming more open-minded. I wish people would go my route first versus the other way around, because I get a lot of people that are already on like 3 to 5 to 7 medications, and I'm like, your migraine medication side effect is migraines. We can work on the migraines with the acupuncture and the herbs, and like, you might not need this at all, you know? So it's a little, not disheartening, but I'm just like, you know, like the more people talk about it, the more people are going to get the message that, oh, you know, maybe I should start with the most non-invasive, non-aggressive approach to my physical health or my like emotional health first before I just like start popping pills. So, you know, more people are open to it, but it's like there's a lot of teaching that goes along with it too sometimes, because a lot of people have lifestyle things that I'm like, look, we're gonna have a come to Jesus moment about like your crazy like 80-hour week job, you know. So, you know,
Not enough needles to fix an 80-hour work week. Yeah.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then do you talk to them, obviously, with a holistic approach of like, if you're eating junk, taking 7 different medications, not sleeping, and stressed all the time with this 80-hour work week, and haven't been into nature since 1992, what, you know, like you said, you got to do some unlearning before you can go forward. You talk to them about all that, like lifestyle, holistic.
I do, because I'm like, look, I might see you 1 or 2 hours a week, but there's all those other hours that you have to take responsibility for. And are you adding to your health, or are you subtracting from your health?
That's
and so they get to decide. And so I try to keep them accountable. And some people are really good at it, and some people are not so good at it. And it's just kind of like, all right, we're gonna have this conversation again.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I like what you said, just coming back before too, as far as where energy is stored, like all the pills that we're taking, a lot of pharmaceutical pills at least, are just suppression, right? So like in an energetic sense, like you're suppressing things, right? So the exact opposite, really, from pill to energy, is releasing that, freeing that, sitting with that, you know. And acupuncture obviously opens up the meridians, Reiki obviously, you know, opens up energy too as well. So it's literally like an energetic physical connection there between what the pill is doing, what the energy is responding to.
Yeah, and getting people to move their bodies too, and in a way that feels good, not in a way that where they're hating themselves. Like, I don't run. Like, running does not work with my body. It's just not a good thing. But like I highly encourage people too. Like, I had this new patient the other day with like frozen shoulder, and she doesn't want to get like crazy physical therapy right now, which is fine. And we decreased it from like a 6 to a 2 in like 1 treatment. So it was super great. But she was like, do you think Tai Chi would be a good idea for me? And I was like, yes, it will.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, because you're working with the acupuncture meridians and channels, and it's very gentle, and, you know, she's older. So I was like, absolutely. So there's just so many ways to layer in the things that are good for you. And like, I'm always about layering energetic and like things that serve you. So whether it's like Tai Chi, yoga, crystals, you know, a lot of people in Chicago don't drink water for some reason. I don't know why, but like water. Yeah. And it's just like, you know, giving them extra ideas of things to do. Like sometimes I send people like, you just really need to stretch your psoas like a lot. You know, you're running and like you're not doing anything after that. Like, come on. So,
I love it.
Yeah, and like, you know, us being, you know, personal trainers too, it's, you know, the kind of people like you gotten, or you know that, you know, after the first training session, it's like, hey, I didn't lose 20 pounds yet. What happened? Like after the first session. So like, I feel like there's probably a lot of people that get that way with like acupuncture, Reiki, because they want to be the magic pill. They're like, okay, I want it to be done now.
Yeah. Yeah. I get so many people, they're like, oh, well, do you have a needle for weight loss? And I'm like, look,
Nope.
you did not gain all this weight overnight, right? Like this took weeks and months and years. And so guess what? It's going to take some time for that to unwind and for that to like fix and get, and so it's, I feel like through the years, I keep getting, like, I'm not as nice as I was probably in the beginning because I'm just like cutting through. I'm like, look.
But you can tell that you're authentic, though. I think that helps accountability because you can tell your authenticity right off the bat. I mean, maybe I'm just obviously speaking from my perspective in life where, like, I would want to come to you for help for sure because you're not going to sugarcoat stuff and you're not going to bullshit anybody. It's like, here's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Because it's not even about the tools and the methods. It's about the results. You're going to use whatever tools you have in all your practices.
Right.
And you were mentioning like a headache before. Like so many people, as soon as they get a headache, they go right for the pills. They go right for Tylenol without even taking a sip of water or breathing through their nose or taking a walk. Like these are cheap, free things. And that's just a whole paradigm and system change as far as a collective thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But people like you are going to help start shifting that. So we're very good.
Yeah, it's a collective effort because there's so many people that know what we know and are not sharing it yet. So it's like, and I was like that a few years ago. I was working with a coach at the time and she was like, you need to get on camera and like share the things. And I was like, I don't want to. It's scary. Who's going to see it? My family's going to think I'm crazy. And now I'm just kind of like, fuck it.
I love it so much. Oh, I love her. I'm so grateful for her too. Well, that's this guy, by the way, actually told me for years, like, dude, you need to do a podcast. And I'm like, why? Because I used to teach coaches and trainers and do like seminars and workshops and stuff. But it was all just like half of them wouldn't even listen. And some of them would, obviously, we'd have a good time. But then he was like, yeah, but you could be helping millions of people if we put a camera on you. And we'll do it together. So I'm so grateful that that person talked you into that.
Yeah. And now it's like way easier. It's just like, it's another skill set that you just kind of get used to doing. And I think it helps you understand yourself and your message so much more too.
Yeah, that's the last step. That's a continual forever step of learning is then teaching.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
What
doctoring, right?
Yeah, that's it. What I was thinking, do you think specifically about where certain energies are stored in the body, like grief in the chest or anger in the liver, or are you just thinking more meridians and energy centers, or how do you like approach each patient?
Kind of individually, but in Chinese medicine, the way the body is set up, each organ is associated with a specific emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So heart is obviously like joy.
Mm-hmm.
The lungs are grief and like sorrow. The liver is anger, which makes so much sense. The kidneys are fear, which also makes sense because when you get scared, like really scared, like what happens? Like a lot of people like urinate themselves.
Yep.
So like, a thing. The spleen in Chinese medicine is an important organ. It's not so much in Western medicine, but that's about worry, like constant like rumination.
They're like, don't worry about that.
Yeah. I know, right?
It stores your worry energetically,
take
but
it out.
You don't have to worry about that.
We'll do surgery and take it out.
Yeah, we'll just cut it out. I'm like, no.
They're always cutting stuff. Why do they want to cut stuff?
If everything.
And you got
it costs a lot of money to cut stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I was doing some continuing education this past weekend, and he was talking about like low back pain and like the facet joints and stuff there. Like if there's a little like bacterial infection, like a lot of people can have low back pain, and they won't even look for that on scans because they don't have something to treat it. And I was like, that is just so gross to me. There's a lot.
It's gross because we can forgive them for what they don't know, but when they know about it and look the other way because they don't have a pill for it, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Like guys. Oh, and you were going organ by organ, and I interrupted you. Do you have anything for stomach, intestines, or sexual organs?
Stomach and spleen is kind of associated. So there's kind of like two paired organs. There's like a yin organ and a yang organ. The stomach, spleen, and like the stomach is like more yang, the spleen is more yin. Liver, gallbladder. So like I was saying, liver is more associated with anger. Gallbladder is more associated with like indecision a lot of times. Heart and the small intestine, actually, and the lung and the large intestine. But did I miss one? Kidneys and, sorry, you can probably hear sirens. Chicago, you know. Kidneys. Kidneys and the urinary bladder are also paired. So, and there's the yin and yang organ in each one of those. But sexual organs, I don't like in that regard. I just kind of like more concentrate on like root chakra, sacral chakra plexus. It kind of like switches for me at that point. And I always, when I'm doing energy work on somebody, I always pay attention to just where that is. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to correlate. It usually does, but not necessarily.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense. That was a mind blower. I love that.
Yeah. Wow.
Anything for like pineal gland, pituitary gland, and just brain, or you're thinking just nervous system and meridian lines?
More nervous system with that. But like, it's really interesting to, like with all the energy work that I do when I'm doing it, so I do it remotely too, which is kind of cool. But when I have people in front of me, like I can like feel the buzzing of their like the left hemisphere of their brain, just like do. And it's like I have to do this thing with my hands to kind of like harmonize the right and the left side of the brain.
Yes.
And it, depending on like, usually it's funny because like it usually correlates with what they do for work. If they're super cerebral, it's like it takes longer for that to balance out. But yeah, for that, it's just not necessarily, I don't really correlate that with any like specific organ system necessarily.
Sure.
Just more of like the chakra, the crown and the third eye chakra and the throat chakra a lot of times too.
That's so interesting. Those are probably, and I'm just making a guess and an assumption, your most difficult patients as far as left brain linear logic engineer types, because they're so held on to the matrix and the constructs of this doesn't make logical sense to me. I didn't see it in a spreadsheet or a book. So like they're holding on to stuff.
Yeah.
And then people that don't know all too much but are more creative and right brain, they'll probably be able to let go of negative energies pretty easily.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting to get somebody who's like, you know, totally corporate, like dude come in, he's like, doesn't want to talk about his poop or anything, just fix my shoulder, you know. It's like, 'cause I ask about all the body systems in the intake. I'm like, I want to know about your sleep, your digestion, you know, like your stress level, all that stuff. And he's, you know, they're just tight-lipped and they don't want to talk about anything. And then I do a couple things and they get up and they're like, it's like a different person. They're like, wait, how does this work? Like you put the needle in my ankle and like my shoulder feels better. Like I don't, and I'm just like, just come back. I'll see you. We'll keep working. Not fixed yet.
You don't talk about it.
I love it. So they start to see the magic and they're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
It makes sense to my left brain.
Like, it's an opening. Yeah, it like shifts their brain a little bit. It's like, oh, you know, and usually like they're not there. They might not be there of their own free will. They just want to, like you said, they just want a result. But like if you start to kind of like drop in these other things and they're like, wait a minute, hang on, what is my body doing? You know,
you want to send them home with
curious.
You want to send them home with crayons and shit. And be like, listen, when you go home, don't open the email.
Yeah.
Shut your phone off for 30 minutes and just draw. And come back to me next week. I'm gonna get more needles. And just to try to make some connections and stuff.
Yeah.
So people come to me and they're like, my knee hurts. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this with your hip. We're going to do this with your shoulder. We're going to do this. They're like, no, I said my knee, but my knee hurts. I'm like, I got this guy. Don't worry about it. I'm like, this is one piece. And there's energy systems you don't see. Everybody with leg day, arm day, back day, like, and then they're so focused on one thing, which is, God bless them, what the doctors usually do, like Western medicine. They're like,
they're just like
tuned in on the knee, and it's like you could be a knee surgeon and know more about the ACL than I'll ever know. But like you probably could have just stretched your hip and stopped doing those dumb movement patterns, and it wouldn't hurt.
Right. Yeah.
Prevention versus, you know, like the Band-Aid, the kind of Band-Aids are going to keep, you know, putting on ourselves or popping pills. Like, everything is connected.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
What an idea.
Yeah, and everything in the
Yeah.
universe is connected, everything on Earth is connected, and everything in the body is connected. And then we are all connected.
Yeah.
Once they try telling that to one of your left-brain dudes.
I know.
And they're like, but my shoulder hurts, lady.
I know.
Is that like your typical type of client? Because you're like in Chicago. What's the demographic you usually work with?
So I'm like in the loop. Have you been to Chicago?
No,
One time,
we're
yeah.
One time.
yeah,
Okay.
we gotta go.
It's pretty sick.
Oh,
I like it.
I want to go.
Well,
It's a fun city. It's a fun city. So there's 77 neighborhoods. I did real estate like in my other life. I did like residential real estate for like 5 years. Hated it. So anyway, there's 77 neighborhoods in Chicago, and like the Chicago Loop is just like one tiny area. That's where all like the government buildings and stuff are downtown. It's like within the L train. It's called the Loop because the L train makes a loop. And so I'm in the Loop. So I'm like, my office is directly across the street from City Hall. I'm in a building with a bunch of attorneys. They're probably like, what is this girl doing here? So
that's why you laugh at my Lori Lightheart jokes.
So
I make fun of every governor, and I don't.
Those are the fucking best.
Canada, Australia, UK.
No one's safe.
No one's safe, man. Once I see hypocrisy and lies and taking advantage of people, you're getting memed and you're getting called out and you're getting made fun of.
I love it. Those ones, the one that you put up today, I was like, and I've seen her, like sometimes I can see her from my office. So
yeah, I mean, she might be a nice lady, but the things she's done and said, I can't just get behind it, you know. But I'm sorry, I interrupted your story. So you're in the loop.
No,
so you got.
I like that in general. She's in the loop.
People, right? That was the first connection that I made. So there's a lot of people that think they're big and fancy because they have a lot of ones and zeros in their bank account and they have designer clothes on.
Yeah.
High stress people too. The 80-hour.
High stress. I mean, I've got some. I've put some more strong intentions around the type of client that I get in the last year. So that has been less. And I'm like, thank you, universe. Because I want to treat people that can hear what I'm saying and can appreciate what I'm sharing. So I've had a lot less of that. But a lot of it's just like the people that, the commuters, you know, working in an office, have typical 9-to-5s, want to be entertained on the weekend. They're not really doing any sort of inner work necessarily. Some are, some aren't. So it's gotten better in that regard, but it's still like there's a lot of teaching to be had. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm here, because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest where it was very granola and people talk to trees and like it was a thing, you know. And like here in Chicago, it's like you're completely cut off from nature for the most part. And so it's just like, I am here to like hold a certain light frequency in this city. Like I'm very clear on that.
Yep.
And so it's just like teaching them the things, reminding, and so I'm getting more people that are more open and receptive to that and asking me more. Like I have a more curious patient base now than I did probably a year ago.
I love that. And you're the perfect person. Once again, I'm only speaking from my selfish perspective, but like I just feel like safe and that you're trustworthy. Like if I was to walk into you, like to where I can relax and trust and surrender, which is the only way any of this shit's gonna work anyway. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Did you earlier you mentioned creating your own reality, whether that's negative or positive, or whether that's conscious or unconscious, because we're all doing that. Do you ever get into like dropping those type of breadcrumbs on people, like telling people about their thoughts and emotions, co-creating with the universe their path that they're on?
I do that, not so much in my acupuncture practice, but with my coaching clients. And we talk about that all day long. There's not necessarily enough time, you know, to do that. Sometimes I wish there was, and I was like, how do I work this in? I was like, all right. It's just like a whole nother thing, like a course and whatnot. But I do sneak those in. I like whenever I can, I drop little truth bombs here and there and see if people pick them up. And if they do, I keep going until, you know, their head explodes or they look at me like I have 3 heads. So, you know.
I love that. I do that all the time too.
Yeah.
Because
You have to.
that's what he calls it, like dropping a breadcrumb. Like you can't force feed the ducks at the park, right? Because they're going to run away. But you could throw some bread down and see what they do with it. And then you throw another one and then another one. And then eventually they trust you and then you're getting them to heal.
Yes. Yeah. Because sometimes, like, I've tried, like, especially last summer, you know, after all this bullshit started, you know, I mean, I took a couple months and I was kind of like, what's happening? Like, what's really going on? It took me probably about 2 months to figure out. I was like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. All right. Like, I'm on. Like, this is why I'm here. This is what I came for.
Yep.
Kind of felt like Gary's. Have you seen Forrest Gump?
Oh, have we seen Forrest Gump?
Yeah. But you know that part where Gary Sinise goes on Forrest's boat? He's in a storm. He's screaming at it. He's like, bring it on. Like, and that's what I felt like last summer. I was like, oh shit, this is what I'm here for. Okay. And I was like, all right, let's do this.
I'm in love.
First person to make a Forrest Gump reference on the podcast.
I know. She beat me to Forrest Gump and fuck in the same
episode.
episode.
Am I winning?
You have all the points right now. Oh my goodness. So in the middle of the loop with fire engines and police sirens and all these things, how do you personally carve out time for nature? I'm sure you guys get a big park or something like that, but do you do daily, weekly, quarterly retreats? Like, what do you do?
Well, I spend a lot of time outside on my balcony, just like looking at the sky. So now, and I have like lots of plants and things. So that's good. My mom actually lives just outside of the city in one of the suburbs. She's got a great backyard. And so that's one of my solace. So how do we say that word? Solace. Yeah. That's one of the places that I go just to get regrounded and just to get it's so much easier to ground and get connected outside of the city. This is something that I play with all the time when I leave the city. I was like, oh, it's like so easy out here. It's just there's less what I like to call energetic interference happening. So I usually go out to her house. And then, there's a lot of parks in the city. So sometimes it's just like, oh, I need to go. I need to go. So I do what I can, but I'm grounding every day. I don't meditate every day, but like 4 days a week, I usually get in like a good meditation bout. So just making sure that I'm like running my energy. So it's like clean, like all the way down to the earth, all the way up, like all the chakras and back, and then kind of like filling my aura. Like I have this practice that I do before I like put my hands on patients, and just to kind of like keep my energy clear. Cause some days when I'm not watching that, then I get like really like drained. And I was like, oh, I probably should have done a little bit more with after that patient before seeing one or whatnot. So energetic practices daily are really important for me.
Yeah, that brings up a good question. At the end of a long day, do you have a clearing practice or ritual to not absorb everybody's negative energy?
Yeah, so I mean, typically when I'm working with people, I wear, like, there's some crystals that I wear. Like I wear some shungite stuff just for like protection. I set some like intentions with like sacred geometry around me. And I'm like, sometimes I'll do little bouts of breath of fire between patients just to help like clear. You probably, if they hear me, they're probably like, what is she doing? Cause I'm just like over like washing my hands, just, like breathing like a pig. Awesome. And I'll ground and I'll like call in my guides and, ask them for support. And every day when I get home though, I like shower like first thing. I'm like, for anything else that's left, that's residual, I'm like going down the drain to be like, taken back into the earth to be recycled or up to source or whatever. So, yeah.
I love it. So since we're family, I just made this up and we should do this more formally, but she's going to have good answers. Do you want to give us 3 favorite musical artists, 3 favorite movies, and 3 favorite books? I know, not to narrow it down to 3, maybe 1 of each, whatever you want to do.
Okay, I like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, 3 artists. I mean, you know, the things have changed because I've learned like more stuff in the past year of like all the people, and I'm like, shit, can I listen to this anymore? So, I mean, not counting that.
Well, we still like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I know. Damn it.
I know
Yeah,
the character and the star, maybe not the best characters, but the movie itself. So we can still separate the energetic feeling of the art itself and pull the lessons out. And
Yes.
not judge the people.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Setting the intention around.
Right.
Favorite. Let's see. I mean, I've always loved the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like West Coast girl. Like,
so West Coast, you're up in Washington?
I would, out like an hour outside of Seattle. I grew up in Kitsap County, so you know,
Amazing.
hiking, camping, doing all the outdoor things. You know, just going camping for the weekend. Like when there were no cell phones, and my parents were like, "Okay," so good stuff.
See ya.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers. I really love Missy Elliott.
Whoa, I like that.
And let's see. I don't know. I don't know what the third one's going to be. I have to come back to you on that.
Okay. Two great ones so far. I put you on the spot. So this is wild, but I knew you were going to have good answers.
Yeah. Books, I would say The Alchemist is one of my favorite books ever. Let's see what else is on my bookshelf. I mean, Catch-22 is always a good one.
Okay.
I feel like I want to reserve the third one for like something really amazing that I can't think of right now.
Okay.
And then what was the other one? Movie?
Give us a movie or two.
Goonies, number one.
Wow, that was quick. That was classic.
Always, that's it. Like, yeah, it's like my favorite movie ever because I'm a movie, and that's just how it is. I really love the Harry Potter series. I know that's not one movie, but just like, you know, I haven't read all the books, but
yeah. So then the question we have to ask after that is which house you would be.
Oh, I saw your post about that. I was like, Gryffindor, because I'm like, I like the excuse me, I like the intellectual aspect of like just being a smarty pants because that's just how I roll. I don't know. I get told though, they're like, you should be in Hufflepuff, and I'm like, I don't know.
What does that even mean? So is that an insult or? I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're close to the kitchen, so there's always snacks available, so that's cool.
I like that.
Badger.
That's so funny. That's perfect.
What about you? Like, what houses would you guys be in?
That's a good question. Gryffindor, I would assume.
I feel like I took a quiz, that one famous quiz a couple times. Like
this is from the
5
heart.
years
This
ago.
isn't Buzzsprout or whatever.
Yeah,
BuzzFeed, whatever fuck.
Yeah, like Slytherin's clearly the evil one. So like, who's gonna actually put themselves in Slytherin?
Let's not act like we don't know those characters.
You're right. Yeah.
And you gotta be grateful for them too to balance the polarity. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be so awesome if they weren't so evil, and that's how we're here. That's
True.
So gratitude all around.
Yeah.
So, that's how it goes. No, I like it. I'm a smarty pants and a smart ass, so that works. You know?
I mean, you have to have both because as you like now I see like I'm like, okay, I see how the ego can be really helpful sometimes. Like, I mean, a lot of times like people badmouth the ego, but it does serve a purpose, right? And it helps to like our ego also helps to give us like the strength to like draw boundaries. And so like when we know that things are not good for us because we are smart enough to know that things are not good for us, then like, you know, we get to like draw the line there and things like that.
Yeah. So. Good luck surviving in 3D with no ego. It doesn't really work like that.
Yeah. The kill the ego thing is like.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's ignoring balance and duality and polarity of, like I said, balance of everything. If you kill the ego, then you're just denying part of yourself.
Exactly.
We've talked about before, like your ego is like a puppy. You don't want to kill him. You want to train him. So he's not running the show and peeing on the carpet. He's your partner. That's your hunting buddy. That's your best friend right there.
Yeah.
You don't let him run the show. You train him and love him. And if you don't love him, the whole kill the ego or get
transcend the ego.
Yeah, to me that's the other side of the pendulum of the people that let the ego run the show.
Yeah.
You can't let that happen either.
Yeah, and I mean that's the the polarizing thing that we're seeing in everything right now. It's
Yes.
like there's I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, there's no gray zone right now. It's like
Yeah.
everybody has to be so extreme in whatever they believe that the middle way doesn't exist right now. And it's really annoying to me because I'm like, really, the extremes can't, like, we don't need to be extremes. Like, whether it's like, I don't know if you saw my video that I did a while ago on like the hypocrisy of the like inclusion and like diversity narrative. I was like, everybody's going so hard on like inclusion and diversity, and it's not like, I mean, those are good things. Like being inclusive and being diverse, I mean, is good. Like, who doesn't want that? But to the exclusion of like all the other things that don't fit within, like, whether we're talking about the race card or like, you know, the thing, like, it's like,
Yeah.
it gets to be all inclusive, not just about those two things, you know? And so it's like,
even on TV, when they talk about race, they only say black and white. Black and white. Like, there's not Asian people, Latino people, and mixed race people?
yeah.
Like, oh, you don't fit in any body, neither do you, actually. You know, and I'm the enemy.
I'm a figment of your imagination.
And you guys are figments of my imagination. Like, how about, well, that's just people looking on the surface level.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
They don't understand the larger game going on here.
Boxes are convenient, dude.
Yeah. Boxes are convenient, but that's also the divide and conquer plan. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the middle way has been the best way.
Yeah.
Best path for a long time.
Yeah.
And it always will be. But we'll get to there. I think, once again, this is just the pendulum swinging hard the other way, and we'll come back to balance.
Yeah.
And
it's just, I mean, it's a good thing too, because like, you know, I keep saying whenever I see like some bullshit on the news or whatever, I'm like, your hypocrisy is showing again. And like, it's allowing that stuff that, like, you know, the light is being shed in all those dark shadows and those corners and those crannies where it's been hiding. So I'm like, it's, you know, it's in service to us.
Yeah.
And in service to humanity and the collective in general, that all of that stuff is coming up to be seen, so we can work with it and transform it and transmute it and like take what is good and then like change what needs to be addressed and that isn't working.
Amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you so much. I don't want to take up more of your time, but we should definitely do something in the future. And we're going to shout out all your stuff because everybody should follow you. And I'll put your Instagram on there, which everybody can go and buy supplements and a whole bunch of stuff. And if you're in the Chicago area, they should come and see you for sure.
She's in the loop.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. It was so great to be here, and you guys are super fun. And so thank you. I love what you're doing and I love what you're about.
Thank you. Peace.